Morning, everybody. I've decided to go ahead and redo my video on the Wilson Combat versus my project gun. I'm gonna try to condense it down a little bit and just talk about a couple things that I have learned comparing these two guns. So basically, the first thing I want to say is that the reason I built this project gun was to see if I can build a 1911 having no prior gunsmithing experience and have it function and fit as well as a professionally built gun such as the Wilson. Price list for this project gun was right around I think $11.50 for all the parts, and I spent about $150 to $200 on extraneous fitting equipment and whatnot, and the price on the Wilson was about $3,300. So let's just go through what I think and what I have learned building this gun and compare them to the Wilson. The first most important one, I guess, is the frame to slide fit, and let's function check these and safety check them. Alright, we're clear there. And the frame to slide fit on my project gun, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's pretty good. It's very flush. I sanded all this stuff out, and it's I think it's on par with the Wilson, to be completely honest. Now the Wilson, in fact, actually the Wilson actually has the serrated slide back, so it's a little bit different, but as you can see, it's also very flush fit. So those two, I would actually, I don't know who to give the winner to. I think both of them are very nicely done. It was a great experience to fit the frame to the slide. A lot of sanding, no dremeling, but a lot of sanding up to 2000 grit actually. The next one, I guess, is the on the outside, at least, is taking a look at this beaver tail fitting, and mine rattles a little bit, which is not great, but if you can look on the Wilson, there is no rattling. It's fitted perfectly. The spring tension is perfect. It doesn't move around when you shake the gun as mine kind of does, and that was my fault. First time, can't expect everything to be perfect. Next up, we've got the fitting of the thumb safety. I think both are pretty good in this regard. Mine is a little harder to engage, and the Wilson, although easy to engage, is much more audible. And so I gotta say the winner goes to Wilson on this one. The speed shoot on the Wilson is perfectly blended in with the frame, and on mine I didn't even bother because I didn't really care about it at that point. I was almost done with the gun. I just wanted to have a finished gun. So let's take this apart and see the differences inside. Okay, we got everything apart now, and I just want to go through just a couple of things that I think are very important when building a 1911. The very first one is the feed ramp. And on the Wilson, you can see that the feed ramp is polished, and it's very consistent. It feels very smooth to the touch. It's not a mirror polish, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, you just really need a smooth enough surface for that round to chamber when you've got a bunch of carbon and gunk buildup. Let's compare that to mine. Mine is actually a mirror finished. I actually did use Jeweler's Rouge and really gave it a nice polish. Now it's dinged up a little bit now because it's had about 2,000 rounds in it, but not a single failure to feed, which is great. And actually no failure to ejects either. So on that note, I gotta say I did actually tune my extractor correctly. The next thing I would like to look at is really the barrel link fitting. Both of them are very tight, and that helps in aiding accuracy. It helps the barrel not moving around laterally when it recoils and the round is pushed out of the the barrel. So if you compare that with mine, actually I would say that the Wilson has a bit of an edge, but not by much. Both of them are very tight. If you look at the two barrels, the Wilson being on your left, both of them are throated. Both of them look pretty much identical, so that's good. And I guess lastly is the locking. You should always make sure that your two locking lugs inside from the slide locking up to the barrel is extremely tight, and that obviously helps also in accuracy. And as you can see, there's absolutely no play in the Wilson, and on mine, tiny bit, very small bit. So again, goes to Wilson on that one. Lastly, while we've got this apart, it's very important to note that the barrel bushing has a large accuracy play as well, and they say that you should always need a bushing tool to take apart a 1911. If you can move the bushing with your hand, it's not tight enough. And I don't know if that's true or not, but first impressions when I built this gun, I made it to the point where I could not take the barrel bushing out unless I used a tool. But after about 200 rounds, I can. So maybe it'll wear in, and the Wilson right now, I can't take it out without a tool either, but eventually after I get a few hundred rounds or a few thousand rounds downrange, they will. So, all right, let's put all of this stuff back together and test the triggers. Okay, both guns are back together now, and I did make a interesting find with the Wilson in that the recoil system has the Wilson shock buff system in it, and when I took that out, I saw the polymer blue ring that they put next to the guide rod, or I guess at the end of the guide rod. And what that's supposed to do is to help mitigate recoil a little bit, and I can actually show you on camera. If I rack the slide hard, you don't get any type of a metal on metal contact sound. Okay, and that is actually because of that polymer shock buff that's there to kind of reduce the felt recoil a little bit. Compare that with this gun. Okay, so I can definitely tell right off the bat which one's going to be a softer shooting gun, and it's going to be the Wilson. So I'm actually going to be getting a set of shock buffs for this gun. Alright, so I guess the last thing we've got to test is the trigger. And I gotta say, both triggers are very well done. But obviously the edge goes to Wilson because they've got many more years than I do doing this. And the Wilson, I would guess, is right around 3.5 pounds, and my gun is right around 3.5 pounds too. But I mean, the creep in the Wilson is just almost non-existent. I mean, it's there, and I expect it to be there for a brand new gun, but as soon as I put maybe 10 or 20 rounds down range, the sear and the hammer contact surfaces should polish themselves, basically, and it should be just a beautiful shooting gun. Now that being said, there is a little bit of creep, and I'm gonna try to show it here. Okay, I'm gonna take up the slack, and maybe you can't see it on camera, but I can definitely feel it. There's that creep right there, and it'll go. So it is there. And my gun, it's a little more prevalent, I gotta say. Having 200 rounds down range, it actually did tighten up a little bit, but I think eventually I will have to get a new sear and disconnector and to test it out a little bit more. But as you can see, both of them are pretty much identical. There's not too much movement, which is good. It's great. It's a good learning experience. Overall assessment, I gotta give it to Wilson. I mean, they did everything right here. I can't spot a single flaw anywhere on this gun in terms of the fit and finish. I mean, it's just perfect, from the safeties, the fitting, the beaver tail fitting, to the speed shoot fitting, to just how glass-like the action is. There's absolutely no frame to slide movement at all. I mean, I can torque it down as much as I can with my hands, and there's just no movement. With mine, there's a tiny bit of felt movement, again, and that's probably from shooting it a bunch of times, but I don't expect this Wilson to get any movement no matter how many rounds I shoot. So overall, very good, positive experience building a 1911, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions, please go ahead and shout them out. Thanks.